Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and today I'm going to talk briefly about my DIY art degree, which is inspired by Candy's DIY literature degree. And I do have a video I recorded a while back about a DIY literature degree, which I'm also doing, but it's sort of on pause at the moment because I got sidetracked. I mean, what is life if not just a bunch of tangents? At least in my case. So anyway, I'll link Candy's channel down below. You can see it. She's also an artist and does, I say also, I'm not a professional artist or anything. She has like for real training in art. And I'll link Art Prof below because some of these things that I'm going to talk about are linked to their sort of, what am I trying to say? They have lessons and stuff on YouTube. So I'll link their channel. They also have a bunch of tracks on their website. So basically, I was going to record my screen and then that was too much effort. And I already clearly didn't have enough energy to get it together enough to record before 5 p.m., which is when the sun sets now. So we're just rolling with it today is what we're doing. So one of the tracks that I'm working on right now from Art Prof is the anatomy and figure drawing track. So that's kind of my main focus at the moment. And basically you have a certain number of 2-minute figure drawings, like gesture drawings, a certain number of 5-minute ones, and then a certain number of feet and a certain number of hands. The third module is a skeleton inside of a figure. Oh, I guess before I do, so for the figure drawings, I've got this book, The Human Figure in Motion, which is an Edward Muybridge. He was like the first guy to take video stills, I guess, back when they were a new thing. So you could see people in motion in a way that was more realistic that you couldn't really see before because people can't really stop mid-movement and have it not look posed. So these are some of the sorts of pictures that I've been using to doodle lately. And I've got just a cup of brush pens and graphite, and what else is in here? Mostly that woodless graphite. That's one of my favorite things. Woodless graphite pencils. They're amazing because you can use the whole side here, this part. Excellent. Big fan of that. I've got some micron pens and a little thing of charcoal and kneaded eraser and whatever. So that's my little desk collection of things. Because right now I'm working on the 2-minute drawing, so I'm 50 out of 90 that I have to do, and then I'll move on to the 5-minute ones, and then the hands and feet. And then there's a skeleton inside of a figure. I do have an anatomy book somewhere to use as a reference for that. And then 180 minutes, what is that? 3 hours? Is that 3 hours? I can't math anymore today. Of 2 to 20-minute gesture drawings of full figures that emphasize tone to show the volume and form. Tone is not something I'm good at. I have used so far mostly micron pens, which do line and not so much with the tone, so that's an adventure. A sustained drawing of a torso. Oh yeah, that focuses on lighting. That's the final assignment. And then there's a portrait track, which is draw 3 sets of 5 to 10 minutes each of different heads. Some focusing on line, some just on tone, and then some on both. And then the second assignment is a skull inside a portrait. So sort of like the bones inside a skeleton inside a figure. A self-portrait with a palette knife only. Never done that. A self-portrait with unusual colors to set a specific mood. I've halfway done that, but I'll do it again for this. There's one assignment that's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to create a diptych, which shows opposite sides of your personality. You're supposed to use thumbnails, which I never do, but I might actually follow the rules on this one, we'll see. And then a portrait based on an obituary that goes beyond somebody's physical appearance. And then there are a few other tracks. There's a color track, a drawing track, and a painting track. And I don't think I'll do all of those, but I might just do a few. So there's a painted chart for each of the 3 complementary color pairs, where you see the shifts towards gray when they meet kind of in the middle. I may actually do that because that sounds fun. I have done some swatching of mixing oranges and greens and purples with some of my acrylic paints. So that was quite interesting because actually, let me get that off the wall here and have a visual aid. What? Ridiculous. I did this, which was fun. And then, it's my favorite one because it's the weirdest one. And then, oranges. So I did that, but I might do this, complementary colors working towards gray in the middle, because I haven't really used grays, mixed grays, anything to do with that. So that one I might actually do. There's a drawing track that involves some gesture drawings of animals. Might do that, might not, I don't know. To do some still life stuff, some self-portraits, I don't know, we'll see. There is one that's experimenting with wet charcoal techniques, which I might actually do for a landscape at some point because I've never done that before. I didn't even know you could do that, but you can do that and it looks very cool. Because, you know, dry charcoal isn't enough of a mess as it is, but I might do that. The painting track, one of the assignments is a master copy. Maybe I'll do that. A skyscape. I feel like I've already done that. Still life with only white objects, but not totally white paint. So you have to like see the colors and the shadows and the whites that aren't quite white. Because it is very easy to look at white and black and just see white and black and not see what the actual colors are. An abstract painting of a sound effect. I've kind of done drawings like that. Might do a painting. Paint a rose by investigating the forms and spaces inside the rose and the gesture of the rose as if it were a finger. I will probably do that. We'll see. So those are sort of the art prof things that I might want to do. Then I've just got a list of like different things I want to study because I'm a geek. As you know, if you've ever watched any of my videos before, this is not shocking in any way. So the art history periods that I want to focus on are, Impressionism is one I've looked into before and know a fair bit about. Expressionism a little bit. I had somewhere, I think I took it back to the library, an abstract expressionism book that I quite liked, although it was mostly men, which was annoying. I'll get to the remedy for that in a second. And then neo-expressionism, which I have not read about. Cubism, but I particularly want to look at landscapes and still lifes. And then portraiture, particularly self-portraits by women, because they don't get enough press, I think. And then landscapes. Landscapes are the thing that I think I love the most and will like default back to. And then I do have books of like master copy. How do I describe this? I don't have the art vocabulary to describe all the things properly, so forgive me for that. But drawings by masters, basically, and then study those. And I'm not trying to be realistic, and I'm not trying to be Michelangelo. I just, you know, it's fun doodling. And then I've got a list of materials I want to explore. So for drawing materials, I've got pencils and graphite sticks. Apparently there's such a thing as a graphite powder and a charcoal powder, which sounds messy and kind of fun. So I might try that eventually. I have willow charcoal, which is my most favorite. I love it. And I have compressed charcoal. It is not my most favorite. But I'll keep it and probably experiment with it more, I don't know, when I feel like it. Pens, I've got some pens, some fine liners, and brush pens. Brush pens I'm not so good at, and then ink I'm not so good at, but I will practice. I do have some pencil crayons kicking around that I don't use very often, and then oil pastels. Ooh, these are my favorite. Okay, I know I said charcoal is my favorite, which is kind of true, but these are my other favorite. These are, let me see if I can, like, it's so fun. I do have to, like, you can see which ones I've used the most. So I do have to come up with some sort of project to use some of these, the ones I use the least, which I think is going to happen maybe this evening because Orla Stevens, who I follow on YouTube and Patreon, is an artist who one of her projects right now, or one of her Patreon sort of adventures that you go on, or can. Wow, full sentences. Okay, not my area tonight. Whatever. One of the things we're exploring right now is shape, and then abstracting the landscape into shape, and then adding color back in, but not necessarily realistic color. Like if you work from a black and white landscape, then you can use whatever color you want. It doesn't have to be the color that was originally there. There we go. So I'll do a little bit of that and probably try and use some of these colors that I haven't used very much. I got some acrylic paints. I'll show you my paint collection situation at the end. I have watercolors that I'm not very good at. I mean, I'm not very good at anything. Let's, set the bar at a reasonably low height. But watercolor I'm really not very good at, and gouache I've never tried before, but it's on my list of maybe someday things. Not acrylic gouache, just gouache, the normal, kind of, I don't know, like watercolor you can paint outdoors sort of kind. Other media, collage. I do a lot of collage. That was sort of the thing that I did. So I took a couple of art classes in my undergrad degree, but that was 20 years ago. Because I'm old, which is mostly delightful, except for the joints. The joints getting old is not quite so much fun. Everything else, fantastic. The not caring about what people think of you, and people not looking at you, amazing. Big fan of all that, generally. What was I saying? Oh yeah, collage. So the collage was one of the things that I did keep doing on and off between then and now. I sort of didn't break out the acrylics for 50 years, and then they dried up and I had to get new ones, which are not cheap. So, oh well. Gel printing, I want to try someday, and bookmaking and altering, I want to try someday. I sort of have started altering a couple books just by using up bits of, like, if there's leftover paint or whatever. Paper making, I want to try making my own paper sometime for collage. I feel like that could be fun, and I've got scraps of all sorts, and like leaves and like pressed flowers and just all sorts of things all around my apartment that I should really use up and stop hoarding and put to a good use. That's the idea. The trouble when you have so many hobbies is you end up with so much stuff that you're like, I'm going to use that eventually. And then eventually is 10 or 20 years down the road. And anyway, dust is a problem, just saying. And then some fiber arts like crochet and weaving and spinning I've done. I'm not very good at I don't do spinning very often. I'm very slow at it. But I would like to incorporate that into collage in some which way or another. Don't really know yet. I've got a list of subjects I want to study. So portraits and figures, sort of covered that. Landscapes. I do want to practice drawing more plants and animals, but not in a like botanical reference book sort of way. Gesture drawings, doing those. Linear perspective, I kind of sort of have done a little bit of that. For shortening, haven't really done very much of that. I mean, I've done a little bit in the gesture drawings, but I'm bad at it because it looks weird. But we'll see. And then abstracting landscapes, which is my most favorite thing. And then I've got a list of artists I want to study their work. So if you've watched any of the weekly sort of wrap-up videos lately, I've gotten a lot of books from the library about different artists. And I've got more on hold, and I'll order a few that the library doesn't have. Thankfully, the library has a lot because a lot of these books are not cheap. Honestly, art books are so expensive. And I get it. It's all like full color prints and everything, and a lot of them. And they're big and heavy. But oh, they're expensive. So Orla Stevens I mentioned. I'll link her below, actually. Make a note to self. And Orla. You should definitely check out her channel if you have any interest in landscapes or abstract sort of work. Multimedia, not multimedia, what's the word? Mixed media. I told you I didn't have the vocabulary at the tip of my tongue. But anyway, I really like her work. It's very inspiring. And she has a lot of fun projects on her Patreon that we do. And yeah, it's good fun. Joan Erdley, who I'd heard of via Orla's channel, Enunciation, is one of my favorite landscape mixed media sort of painters. Joan Mitchell. I've just ordered a book by Joan Mitchell that will probably be my next weekly wrap-up because the library didn't have anything on her, and I think she's one of my favorites. So there's a group of, this book will appear in a weekly wrap-up at some point too, of 9th Street women. So there's a group of women who were heavily involved in the abstract expressionism movement in New York in, I think, the 50s and 60s, thereabouts, 40s, 50s, 60s, somewhere in that general time frame. The Jackson Pollock time frame, if you're familiar. Lee Krasner is one of these women. I do want to actually, I should add her to the list because I do want to, apparently she has charcoals that I might like. So I should look those up because her paintings are not quite my favorite thing ever. But some of the other women, like Elaine de Kooning, I actually like her work better than her husband's. Don't tell the art critics. Yeah, I love it. I've got a book about, oh yeah, see, these are all so heavy. Grace Hartigan, who is one of these women. Do I have anything tabbed? I'm not clear all the way through it, but this is sort of some of her stuff. And I don't think I connect with her stuff as much as Joan Mitchell's, but it's really interesting anyway. So I've been enjoying this book, and it's got bits of information beside the paintings about, oh, I can't tell how to tell if this is in the frame here. Awesome. Anyway, I'm not finished that yet, but I will get to that one of these days. So she's on the list. Helen, I'm gonna screw up this last name, Frankenthaler is also on the list. So those were these 5 abstract expressionist women who became really well known in New York. And yeah, Joan Mitchell I think is my favorite. Helen Frankenthaler, I want to get one of her books because some of the stuff I've seen I really like. And Elaine de Kooning I've got to look into some more. I've looked into her stuff a little bit and I really liked it, but I've got to look up some more. Because some of the books, like one of the books, it's called 9th Street Women, only has a handful of tiny little pictures in the middle of the book because it's mostly a biography, sort of biography. Anyway, I'll talk about that when I finish reading it. Kathy Kollwitz, did I talk about her last week or is that upcoming this week? I might have talked about her last week. I lost all track of time and continuity and my memory is abysmal. Anyway, she did a lot of engravings, I think, which I don't have particular interest in, but I like her line work a lot, really a lot. Her sketches and everything are just, and her engravings. There's some engravings that look like sketchings and I don't really know how engravings work. I mean, I have a vague idea, but I don't know much about them. But yeah, I like her work. Oh yeah, Van Gogh had some trees and undergrowth paintings that I've got to examine more closely. Because somehow he made them beautiful without, like, anytime I try to do it, it looks overwhelming. So I gotta study that a little bit. Hannah however you say that last name properly, was a German collage artist, one of the first, and the only woman who the men led into the boys' club of the Dada movement, because that's a fun historical gatekeeping fact for you. Anyway, she was pretty groundbreaking in the way she worked with assemblage and collage. And then Tina Modotti is a photographer who I've used a lot of her stuff as reference photos because I find her photos there's a whole story in her photo. It's really interesting. And then there are a few other artists, I won't go through all of them, on my list of people that I still want to look into because I found this or that thing about them that I kind of liked and I want to look up more. Matthew Wong is the Canadian on the list I want to look more into. Although I do like Emily Carr, I've got one of her prints up on my wall there. Color track, drawing track, painting track, talked about all that. And then I've just got a bunch of like lists of projects and things. So like drawing music I tried doing, oh I can't show you my phone because I'm looking at my phone, but I have a clear case and I collaged an insert for the back of it so it changes how it looks. And then different things I want to try, different things I want to do in oil pastel. I want to try watercolor over another pen at some point, make a mini book, odds and ends, draw your living space. What else here? Orla had an interesting prompt at one point that I wrote down, which is how much can I express with how little? Like how few lines can you use to get something across? That was an interesting idea. Respond to a poem is on the list. Drawing based on a statistic. I had to write that down because that was an art prof prompt from, I can no longer remember what video. I've watched like 200 of their videos. And that was one of the prompts that I think Clara Liu has used when she was still a teacher at art college in the States. She'd used that in one of her classes. And I'm a data analyst, so I've got statistics coming out of my ears. So I'll have to do something with that at some point. Still different still life ideas, because I haven't really done much of that because I don't want to do the boring stuff. But yeah, and charcoal landscapes. I've only used, so I've got this book of this sort of gesture drawing stuff. So I've used charcoal for that, but I haven't really used it for landscapes, although I did. Is it in here? I think there's another one. I tried using, somewhere I've got Graphitint, and it was a little too, the block was a little too big, I think, for gesture drawings, but it was fun for these landscape sketches. This was for Orla's shape, I don't even know what to call it, sketchbook challenge thing. Here's another one. So that was fun, because I do like these prairie landscapes. I'm very attached to them. And then this, no, not this one. This one was a thunderstormy sky. This was one of these. Oh yeah, apparently some of these are water soluble. I can't tell if this one is, but I'll have to try. This is one of these graphite crayon things. They're quite fun. You can't do details with them, but that's kind of the point. And I have printed out a lot of landscape photos that I've taken that I can use as reference. They might have a bit of glare on them. Like this was this was the stormy one, and then this was the other one for the other two sketches that I showed. And then this is the book I'm going to start using for some of the portrait track pictures, because I don't want to just draw my face over and over again, because I mean I can do that, but like there are other options out in the world. And this is the National Geographic Women Image Collection. And I'm just holding up the dust jacket because the actual book weighs a ton and I've taken the dust cover off. So yeah, and then one second, ignoring the fact that there's a hockey game on, this is where I store I've got my collage stuff in different boxes, all my notebooks up there, and then painting stuff is down. It's all works in progress and mess on the floor. And then the top of my freezer, because I live in a little apartment and space is at a premium, is my painting and random other art supplies station. So this is the paint tray to attempt to keep it all contained. But as you can see, it has spread out over the rest of the freezer with some Gothlit November Tarot decks. It was actually originally all contained in this little art station thing, and then it expanded. Okay, so I think that's my everything I wanted to get to for my art degree, DIY art degree situation. So yeah, much thanks to the YouTubers who've inspired me so far. There's so many artists on YouTube now, it's bananas, and I can't keep up with them all. But the ones I've mentioned I spent the most time, I think, on their channels. And yeah, now I'm gonna go get dirty with some paint. So have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.